Hello and welcome to Groundhog Graphics. My name is Martin and this is episode 4 of Programming in C. We will be learning how to use C's switch statement to make decisions in our program. It is known as the multiple choice statement, and it can also be used as an alternative to if in some situations and be more practical choice. So let's begin by creating a new project. Let's go for console application. Select C. Project title will be EP4. I think we'll just leave it at episode 4. Click next, and defaults are fine. Do our usual removing the code from the source file. I have written this program ahead of time, so we will follow it line by line and then execute it. First, I defined a variable choice. We will use it to store our keyboard input from the user. Here I've created a small multiple choice menu. The user can choose any menu item they want between 1 and 6. If the user enters a number outside of the menu options, well, they will get a special message then. Next we have scanf. We'll use this to take user input, and we'll place that input in our variable choice. And now here's the big list of if statements we are going to use to give the user a custom message based on their input. Let's run it. F9. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and I will choose tomato 3. Tomato is a fruit, so they say. I think it's a vegetable. Well, that is true. Seems more like a vegetable to me. Let's see what else we can do here. Let's go ahead and run it again. And let's choose 6, chicken. Chicken is the meat I eat. That's awesome. And we'll run it again. And we'll see, let's do beef jerky. Beef jerky is a tough meat. So you see we have our multiple choice and we have all of our if statements. If, and then else if, and it goes all the way down. But if you notice, all these if statements is a little bit kind of hard to read. And it just seems a little messy, And good thing that there is actually a better way to write this. And I am going to use the switch statement that this video is about. I'm going to use a switch statement to replace all of these if, else if statements, making the program do the exact same thing, but easier to read. I'm going to go ahead and pause the program, or pause the video, and I'm going to write up our replacement multiple choice with the switch statement. But before I do put the switch or replace it with the switch statement, let's go ahead and run it and see what happens when you enter an option outside of the menu. So F9. Hello. F9. There we go. So now I'm going to enter the number 7. Seriously, it was a simple choice. How did you mess it up? Exactly. Now, that right here came all the way down to the else at the very bottom. So it went through every one of these options, if, else if, until it ran out of options, and it went to the last else, and it printed that message. Now let's go ahead and replace this with a switch statement. Okay, now we've replaced all the if statements with one switch statement. Let's go through the switch statement line by line. First, we type in switch and we place the variable that we would like to evaluate between the parentheses. Next, we create the switch block. by using an open and closed curly brace. Now we see a case statement. These are the statements that perform the comparisons against our variable. In this case, we are testing for the number 1 in between parentheses. After the number 1, we use a colon. After the colon, everything we enter will be executed if the case evaluates to true, and then it will end at the break statement. The break statement is almost always used with every case, the break statement is almost always used with every case to stop the execution of code. If we omit the break statement, execution will actually continue all the way down each code block for each case until a break is reached, or to the end of the switch block. And sometimes you could want that. Sometimes you could actually want to have several cases fall through to have one execution, one common execution block. But in this case we don't, so we have a break after each and every one. So now we have case 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, which are all the same as the first case, except they're just testing for different numbers that the user may have input with different results printed to the screen. The last option in our list of case statements is the default. It is the same as using an else with an if statement. If all comparisons are false, then the code after default will execute. Default is not required in a switch statement block and can be omitted, but oftentimes I will put one in even if there is no executable code to complete the switch block, but of course you don't have to. So let's run it, and you will see it perform exactly the same as the block of if-else statements we had before, but this time it's much cleaner and easier to read. F9. Hello, come on. F9, there it is. So please choose one of the following. Okay, we'll go with pork. 4. Pork is meat. Yep, that's true. Good description. Run it again. Watermelon 2. Watermelon is a juicy fruit. That it is. Alright, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to execute this, and I'm going to hit a number outside of our menu options. We'll go with 0. Oh, oops, seriously, it was a simple choice. So there it is. As you can see with the switch block, it works exactly the same as it did with all of these ifs that we had here. But it is easier to read, and once you just get used to, some of the format of it, like these open curly braces and what have you. Now you actually, technically, you don't have to have these curly braces. You don't actually have to have the open and closed parentheses. I put it in there so it looks neater and just makes my code look tidier, but you don't have to have it. You could actually take, let me show you. Let's just do it with one of them, and we'll do this here. So now you can see that there's just case 1 and no braces. So let's go ahead and run it, and let me hit 1. Apple is a fruit, so it still works fine. But I do think it looks a little nicer to add some of these touches to it, and put them right back. And thank you so much for doing that, Code Blocks. That was a big help. And if we can get it done, there, now it's all back to normal. So now let's see what happens when we remove these little break statements, or actually I'll just comment them out with 2 forward slashes. I'm just going to do the first 3. That'll be enough to demonstrate what will happen. So we have case 4, 5. So it will stop down here. Case 4 for pork is meat. So let's go ahead and execute it. F9. And I'm going to hit apples. Apple is a fruit. Watermelon is a juicy fruit. Tomato is a fruit. and pork is meat. So without the break, you see exactly how it fell through. Now I'll go ahead and remove these. Now something else to notice here too. Um, we can't do the evaluations like we did at if statements. We can't do like, is it less than or greater than, or all we can do is basically if it is equal to um, a particular value in the switch block. So let me show you what happens if I put like less than 1 and execute that, and then we get an error. So it doesn't like that. It just wants to know exact values. Now also I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change this from numbers, and I'm going to make these letters and show you how you would check a switch or use a switch block and check for particular letters that may be typed in. So let's go right here. Choice equals get C standard input semicolon. So put some spaces in here, make it look a little better. And now what we will do is I will use the apostrophe, single quotation mark, and I will put the letter A. I'm going to put lowercase because if I use an uppercase, it will be case sensitive, and my keyboard, of course, is set to lowercase. So for this test, it's going to be lowercase, so we'll do B. And C. D. E. And F. Okay, I think this should be good, so let's go ahead and run it. And now we have our choices with the alphabet instead to choose from, A, B, C. So let's go ahead and go with F. Chicken is the meat I eat. And there it is, it works. Run it one more time. F9. Let's go ahead and type the letter G, which not part of our menu. And see, there it is. So it works just the same. And now I'm using it with the letters of the alphabet rather than just numbers. But you have to use this apostrophe because the value of A is the ASCII code. So when you use the apostrophe, C is going to compile and it's going to place the ASCII code basically right where we put the apostrophe A right here. It'll put the code, the ASCII code for A. So that's what it'll really be testing for. We can also, if I were to change this also, now since we were getting this into a character format from the keyboard with get C, we're not getting numbers like we did with scanf. What we have to do, well, we could do like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we put it back. But in this case, because of the way we're receiving the input, we would have to keep that enclosed in those single quotation marks, because it's not going to be the number 1 it receives. It's going to be the ASCII code for the number 1 that it receives. So we have to check against the ASCII code for the number 1. And that's the difference by using the get C versus the scanf. Scanf was converting it and turning it into an actual number. Get C is returning the ASCII code of a particular keyboard button. And so you'd have to use the apostrophes in that case. But I think that completes this tutorial on the switch block, switch statement. We've learned a lot. I thank you for watching, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye.